right, hello everyone. How is everybody today? Hope you are having a wonderful start to your week. Happy Monday. Are we ready to do some fun nails for 4th of July? I totally spaced out that was coming up the end of this week, so we're adding some fun designs into our live stream here today. So we've got our nails, some of our nails ready to go, but we're going to be doing another one a little bit different than what we've got on here. We're going to add a fun design to that. But I am just going to pull my chat up here. Hopefully we can get that up and running. And then we'll go ahead and get started in our design today. All right. We're going to hope that our internet continues to work smoothly. We had a little technical difficulty this morning, but should be good to go here this afternoon. And if you guys give me just a minute here, I will get our chat pulled up and we'll go ahead and get started. In the meantime, what we're going to be using today, if you guys haven't seen already or haven't checked out our Discord server already, I always post all of the products that I'm going to be using on our Discord server, so that way you guys know exactly what I'm going to be using. And it looks like my chat is taking a little bit longer here to load up. So let me take care of that. While I'm doing that, I'm going to pop some of the products into the screen here so you guys can get a look at what I was using on our nails. And if you want to work along with me, you can gather up all of those products and you can work along with me. So you can do this fun design right along with me here. All right, you guys give me just another second here. I'm not able to get my chat pulled up today, but let me keep trying here. Let me see if our moderators can help me out a little bit here, see what we've got going on. Or if maybe I need to restart our live stream. We'll see. Give me just a second here, though. All right, you guys. I think unless I hear from my moderators, I may have to restart the live stream here. Otherwise, we'll hope for the best. Give me just another second. We'll try one more thing here. Otherwise, I think I'm going to try restarting. So if you're here with us, if you're joining us, I apologize for the little bit of delay here. Just trying to figure out some technical difficulties today. All right, you guys, if you're watching here with us, thank you so much. I'm actually going to restart the stream, so rejoin in and hopefully we'll get everything up and running for you guys in just a second here. But I'm gonna end the chat, and oh well, my moderators are telling me we should be good. Okay, hang on a second, you guys. Let me see. Don't have to restart. Okay, let me see if my chat's now working. Okay, there we go. All right, you guys, we are up and running. Sorry for the delays. Sorry for the technical difficulties. I think it's just going to be one of those days of a little technical difficulties, and the internet is acting up a little today, I think so. But welcome in, you guys. Thank you all so much for joining us. Lots of familiar names again, you guys. I love seeing all of those familiar names in the chat. It's like our own little family here. So, but if you are new, welcome in also. Glad you're making it here today. And I don't know if you guys saw or not, but we're going to be doing a little bit of 4th of July kind of a look today. I kind of spaced out that this was 4th of July was coming up at the end of the week. So we're throwing a fun little design in here. It's not going to be anything too wild and crazy, but it's going to be something that you can add into maybe a set like this. So you've got some beautiful solid color nails, a little bit of sparkle, and then we're going to do a fun little design on our first nail here. But we're going to be working with our full cover stiletto tips. We're going to be working with some of our mission control gel paints. And we're also going to be, well, actually I'm not going to be, no, I'm going to be using the Silver Spring in our design. But then the other two colors that I used on our nails here, that is some of our ManiQ colors. And I'll show you guys these a little bit once we get into our design. And also one other kind of a nude color there. But let's go ahead and get our nail going here, because I know you guys really want to see the nails. You want to see all the fun stuff. Jasmine's asking, can you do chrome shimmery fireworks today? I'm not doing fireworks on the nails, but maybe you could use some of the techniques that I'm working or doing and showing today. Maybe you could use those and create your own fireworks. And you guys, I always tell you, if you take any of our inspiration that we do here on our live streams and you create the looks that we're creating here, or if you create your own looks inspired by us, definitely post them on your social media and tag Young Nails. We want to see what you're doing. We want to see what you're creating. So make sure to tag us. We want to see. So we're going to just start by pushing back the cuticles. And if I were doing a full set, I would make sure to push back the cuticles on all 10 nails. But we're just doing our one nail here today. So we're going to push back the cuticles there. Today I'm using my magic wand. I know you guys, I've shown you this previously, but if you haven't seen it yet, this is, I got to show you because it's one of my favorite tools that we just came out with. This is our glass cuticle pusher. You can see it's got a little bit of texture to it, and then it's got the smooth handle up here. So it's got texture on both ends. You guys, this cuticle pusher works amazing right up around that cuticle area. Now on our trainer hand, it's not really looking like it's doing a whole lot, but when you use this on a real person, you're gonna see that that cuticle pusher, let me come in nice and close so you can really see. It's gonna get right up into that cuticle area, and all of that last little bits of cuticle that may still kind of be stuck to that nail, it's going to help to really clean all of that off. And you guys, if you're a nail biter, if you have nail biter clients, this tool is amazing, especially if you use that opposite end. So I was using that little pusher end, kind of a little slanted end there. Then on the other end, it's got a little bit of a sharper kind of a point to it. But this works amazing for getting right down along those sidewalls, getting all the way down right into those edges, cleaning all of that dead protein growth, all of that dead cuticle right off of there, even right up into that cuticle area. You can use a little bit more of the point kind of down along those edges, or if you turn it on the side like that, you can use a little bit more of just that slanted edge there to get right up into that cuticle area. And you guys, I'm telling you, it is my new favorite tool. I absolutely love it, especially into those nail biters, into those tough cuticle areas. So if you haven't tried this one yet, you're missing out. You got to check this one out. You're going to absolutely love it. And it is sanitizable and disinfectable just like all the rest of our metal tools are. So you can sanitize that and disinfect that as well. So let's go ahead and move on. So we've already pushed back the cuticles. We're going to size out our tips next, and then we're going to go through and we're going to finish the prep. I always like to size out my tips before I prep the rest of the nail. That way I'm not going to get any filing dust or anything on our clean and prepped nail. Okay, so we're going to size out our tips. Now you guys, you can probably see in my box of tips here, these are in assorted sizes, but you can see the ones that I use the most of on my trainer hand. I know what size goes on my trainer hand. I know what fits perfectly on the trainer hand, but I'm going to show you what does and does not fit. So let's start with what does fit. So on our trainer hand, I know that my size 2, if you look really close on there, you can see in the underside of the tips here, it has the size in there. So it's a size 2. This one fits really nicely on our trainer hand. And what I look for when I'm sizing out my tips is, first of all, does it fit the C curve of the nail? And what I mean by C curve is, if we look at the nail from this view here, that is our C curve. That is the curve of the nail from this side up to the highest point here and then down to the side here. We want to make sure that the well of our tip is going to fit that C curve. So if I turn my tip, so this is my tip that I'm working with here, if I turn that around, and I compare the C curve of my natural nail to the C curve of the tip, this one's going to look pretty right on. and we're going to be looking right through here. Now these tips do have a little bit more of an arch right through the center area of the tip, but don't worry too much about that. Just look right through here, right at this back cuticle area through here. That's what we're going to be comparing. So that actually looks about right. Okay, now let me show you some tips that are a little too big and a little too small, just so you have a little bit more of an understanding. So if we go to a size, actually a couple of sizes larger, if you take a look at this one's going to be way too big. You can see even if I put that right on top here, set that over the nail, that is going to be way too big. Now, are we applying the tip from this direction? No, we're going to be putting it on this way. But I like to show you guys from this direction so you can see exactly how that well is going to fit. So this is going to be way too big. Okay. Now, on the other end, if we take a tip that's way too small, let's take a look at this one. I think this is one of the biggest mistakes that a lot of beginners make, or even enthusiasts tend to make, is that they size the tip too small to the C curve. They take that tip and they really squish that tip on there, and now it does look like it fits all the way from side to side. But when I let go of that tip, it's going to pop back up. Because these tips, if you take another look again from that down the barrel, if you put pressure on that, it will flatten out the well of that tip. But as soon as you let go of that, it's going to pop back to its original shape. It wants to keep its shape like this. So if you take that tip and you really try to squish that down and really press that down onto the nail, it's going to have a tendency to pop back up. So again, you want to make sure that you're sizing this out so that you're not having to use a lot of pressure on there, and you don't have to really force that tip on there. Okay, so that tip is going to be too small. The other one is going to be too big. So we're actually going to stick with this size 2, because this one is going to, it's going to sit right flush on there. I'm not using a lot of pressure. I'm just setting that right on top, and it's going to fit from side to side. Now this tip actually may hang off. You can kind of see if I hold it, I'm going to hold it, actually we'll hold it all the way to the edge right on this side. If you look at this side, you do see it does hang off just a tiny little bit. Now, that's okay, because with the application that we're going to be doing today, we want it just a little bit larger. We're going to be using our tip and jewel adhesive to apply these tips. And this is a very thick gel. This is what we're going to use as our adhesive, but it is a gel. And because it's a little bit thicker, it's going to take up some space in this well. So when we actually do put the tip on, it's going to raise it up just ever so slightly. So again, let me show you this from the side view. So if I were to put that tip on, say using just a regular thin glue, it's going to sit all the way flush down onto that nail, and it's going to hang off a little bit on the edge here. Now, because we're using that thicker tip and jewel adhesive, it's going to take up space underneath the well of that tip. So it's going to raise that tip up just a little bit, and then it's going to sit right up to that lower arch, right up to that nail groove. So I hope that makes sense, you guys. Put a little thumbs up in the chat if that made sense to you, because I want to make sure that you're understanding that when you're working with that thicker tip and jewel adhesive, you need to leave a little bit of extra space so that you're not putting that tip right at that edge and then having that little bit of a kind of a catch right on that side. Okay, we want to make sure that our tip is going to cover this little corner right down here. Okay, I'm seeing some little thumbs up in the chat, so that makes me think that yes, you guys are understanding, so that is fantastic. All right, so if we take a look at this, we did size that out so it's going to fit the C curve, and then it's going to fit from side to side. But if I bring that tip back a little bit towards the cuticle area, you're still going to see it's got a little bit of, kind of a little bit that's going to hang off the edge right back here. And same thing on that other side right back here. So I'm going to go through and I'm actually going to customize my tip. So I'm going to grab my file. This is actually our file buffer combo. So it's a 180 file on one side and then a 180 buffer on the other side. I'm going to use this to just round out those corners a little bit. So it's going to fit a little bit more up into that cuticle area. So just rounding that out a little bit. And then the reason that I use my file buffer combo at this point is because I like the file side to take down that take down that edge. But then if you look really close, you can see there's a little bit of a frayed edge right there. That's where I'll flip over and I'll use my buffer, and that's what I'm going to use to smooth out that little bit of a frayed edge. So 2-in-1 tool, that way you don't have to use a file, set that down, find your buffer. You've got all of that in one tool and you're ready to go. So let me check this one more time. I think that is going to fit a little bit nicer right up into that cuticle area. Now notice another thing. I don't size my tip all the way back to that cuticle area. I size it a little ways away from there because this way I can actually blend in that seam so that it's going to go right flush down to that natural nail and we're not going to have a ledge. Now, a lot of times I don't show you guys this, but I'm going to show you another trick that you can do. When you're putting your tip on, and you get that tip on there, we are going to go back through and we're going to blend out that back edge. But if you want to, you can use your file, and you could use the 180 or you could use your 150 grit file, whichever one works better for you. But you can take that file and you can thin out and you can do just like a pre-blend. So you can thin that cuticle area out just a little bit so that you're not going to have as much filing to do once you get that tip on. Now, sometimes I show you guys this, sometimes I don't. The reason that I generally don't show you is because, I'm going to show you this. When you put the tip on, we're going to have glue underneath this tip. And a lot of times when you go through and you pre-blend that, you can't always see how the glue or how the tip and jewel adhesive is adhering. So you may end up with little pockets underneath. So that's why I generally don't like to show you guys that, because I want you to be able to see how your tip and jewel adhesive is adhering underneath there. But I know there are some of you, probably a good number of you, that have been with us in our live streams here for a while. So hopefully you've been practicing this and you've got that technique down. So you'll be able to tell as that adhesive is adhering. So just another little trick that may help you in the long run. And you can either blend now or you can blend later. And I'm going to show you how to blend later as well. But just use what techniques work for you. Okay. All right, so we've got our tip sized out, ready to go. That is customized. I'm going to set this one right down here. We're going to hang on to that. Now we're going to go through and we're going to do the rest of our prep on our natural nail. And to do that, I'm going to change out my sanding band. I'm going to grab a brand new sanding band. Always use a brand new sanding band, and I know I tell you guys this every time, but always use a brand new sanding band. These are not sanitizable and disinfectable, so if you're using this from one person to the next, you're just going to be moving germs from one person to the next. So always make sure that you're using a brand new one. And also, even if you're just working on yourself or even on your trainer hand, you want to make sure that you're using a brand new one, so you're not using one like the one here on the right. This one is a little bit worn down and you're not going to do as the proper filing that you would with a brand new one. So always use a brand new sanding band, whether you're working on yourself, working on your clients, working on your trainer hand, always use that new sanding band. Now to remove shine, I'm just going to work right up into that cuticle area, just short little motions all the way through, and then I'm going to feather my bit all the way down through the length of the nail. And you guys, I'm going through my prep kind of quickly, but if you do feel like you need a little bit more information about really any of the techniques that I'm using today, whether it's prep or filing or anything like that, make sure to subscribe to our channel here. We have over 3,000 videos for you guys. We have videos on how to prep the nails, how to file the nails, all kinds of different applications. So make sure to check out the rest of our channel and get all of that free education. So once we've prepped that surface, we're going to use our swipe. And you guys, if you were here with me last week, I still haven't refilled my swipe. I know I need to. I'll get to it. But I'm going to pump a little bit of that swipe onto my manicure brush. And then we're going to dust off the nail and we're going to really cleanse that nail surface. And swipe is going to clean off those little tiny pieces of dust that may be on there. You can clean out underneath the nail if you need to. But it's also going to help to dry out some of the surface oils that might be on that nail, as well as helping to clean off any of the germs or bacteria that may be on the nail. So it's a very important step. So never skip using the swipe. And I know a lot of times people ask, well, can I just use acetone or alcohol? And you guys, no. I'm going to tell you, swipe has a proper balance to clean the nail properly and leave the proper surface for the best adhesion. Sometimes if you were to just use, say, alcohol can leave a little bit of a barrier still on that nail, and it may not completely cleanse that nail properly. On the other end, if you use just straight acetone, that can actually over dry that natural nail. So you want to make sure that you're using the swipe so that you're going to have that proper level of moisture versus dryness in the nail. I know it sounds a little strange, but you want a little bit of hydration. You don't want to completely dehydrate that nail, and that's what acetone is going to do. Okay. Now, next thing I'm using is our protein bond. And protein bond is our bonder. And you're going to see I do put 2 coats of our protein bond on the nail. And this is going to help to really just anchor down whatever product we're adding onto the surface. And again, today, the product that we're going to be using is our tip and jewel adhesive. Now, also, we've got our tip that we've already sized out and shaped and all that good stuff. We've pre-blended that. I'm actually going to take my manicure brush, dust that out there, and because we're using a gel to adhere our tip, gel generally does not like to stick to a smooth, shiny surface. Now, we've roughed up the surface on the front part of our tip, so the top part of our tip, but we haven't created any texture in the well of the tip. And if we were to just put our adhesive in the well, it's not going to stick to that shiny surface and it's going to probably peel right off. So what we're going to do, you could actually do one of 2 things. You could go through, you could use your electric file and you could go through and create some texture just like we did on the front surface. You could create that texture on the back surface. But what I like to do, and what's a little bit easier, is I'll take a little bit more of my protein bond and I'll brush that through the back side of that tip. So it's not creating texture at this point, but it's giving this a really sticky surface for our gel to adhere to. So just a quick and easy way of getting that tip to stick a little bit better, okay? All right, you guys, if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Join our community. I see you guys out there. I see a lot of newbies out there. I see those names that haven't been in our chat before. So first of all, welcome. Thank you guys for being with us. And then make sure to hit that subscribe. All right, so we're going to take our tip and jewel adhesive. We've got our tip here, and I also have my brush and dual-ended brush and spatula. So on one end, it's got the spatula. On the other end, if we take that cap off, it's got a brush. So you can use both ends however you need to. I generally like to start with the spatula end. And let me come in nice and close again. So we're going to take a little scoop of our tip and jewel adhesive, scoop that up, just kind of tap down those little strings, get them to release a little bit. I think I need just a little bit more than that. So take just a little bit more, tap down those strings, let those release. And then, one other thing I want to show you guys before I actually apply our tip. Let me set these off to the side here. Okay, so one other thing I need to show you is our Touch Cure light. So if I can get this into camera here. So this is it's a little stand that this light is on. I'm actually going to take the light out of the stand so I can show you. So what this is just a quick little curing light. It's not going to fully cure the nails. It's just I'm gonna use it to just freeze the gel into place. So we're gonna turn that on. You're gonna see that it's got a timer and the little light comes on at the end. Now, I can use my finger. I'll tap the end of it to turn that off, tap it to turn it on. So I can use this to just freeze my product into place. So this is a great tool, especially if you're doing full sets of the full cover tips. Let me just get that back into the stand. Because as you're working, hang on a second, guys. As you're working, you're going to apply your tip. So we're going to take that tip that we sized out. You're going to apply that tip with the tip and jewel adhesive. and then you're going to use the light to freeze that into place, okay? We're going to go on to our second nail. Apply the tip, freeze that into place. Apply the tip, freeze that into place. The reason that we're not putting the tip on and then just trying to get that into our full UV LED light is because it's going to take too long, okay? When you're using the full cover tips, just get that tip on, use the little mini light here to freeze that into place, and then you can cure the full hand all together for a full minute, and it's going to save you time. You guys, sorry, I keep bumping into that light today, or into my camera today. Not sure what's going on there, but. All right, so one more time, let's take a little scoop of our tip and jewel adhesive, tap off those little stray strings there, and I'm going to take that adhesive and using my spatula, I'm going to just set that right down into the well of my tip. I'm going to put some pressure on there and drag that product all the way back towards the cuticle area. So at this point, you can see the product is just right down the middle, right down the center. I've got some space at my edges here. I'm going to move that product a little bit closer to the edge, but not all the way. And the reason that I don't bring my product all the way to the edge is because when I do set this tip onto the nail, that product is going to move. It's going to kind of press out to the sides. So if I brought that product all the way to the edge, it's probably going to squeeze out the side and it's going to get on the client's skin. So by leaving a little bit of that space at the edge, it's going to allow my product to move and flow to the sides without squeezing out and getting onto my client's skin. Now I've got a little bit of that adhesive left on the back edge of my spatula. I'm going to just scrape that right off there. Make sure that there's no gel coming off the back side. And sometimes that's where I'll flip over and I'll use my brush if I need to clean anything off of those edges rather than trying to use my finger. You guys, this product it's a chemical and you want to make sure that you're not getting that chemical on your skin. So that's why I like to use my tools. Use that brush if you need to clean any of that gel off of the edges. Now we're going to apply our tip and I'm going to show you this from the side view. I like to show you from the side first before I actually apply this so that you can see exactly how I'm putting this tip on. Let's get a little bit of a different view for you guys here. Okay, I think that's going to be good. So when I put my tip on, I don't just squish it flat down onto that nail. If I do, what can happen is I'm going to get air bubbles. So what I want to do instead of just pressing that flat is I'm going to start with that tip at a slight downward angle. I'm going to touch it down onto the nail and then I'm going to rock that tip down. And that's how we're going to press out the air bubbles. Now something else is that I'm not actually putting that tip right at the cuticle area. I'm going to start with it. Oops, looks like I already touched that to the nail. There we go. So I'm going to start with the tip a little farther away from that cuticle area. I'm going to touch it down and then slide it back. This is also going to help to keep that product from squeezing out and coming in contact with the client's cuticle and their skin. So you always want to make sure that you're keeping product off of the skin and making sure that it just stays on that nail. Okay, so let's go ahead and do our application. So again, I'm going to start a little ways away from the cuticle. Now, you guys, I want you to see the reason that I did, sometimes I do prep the surface here is because we want to thin and taper that out, but it's going to be a little harder to see where your adhesive is adhering to that natural nail. So if you're a little bit more advanced, go ahead and do that kind of pre-beveling. But if you're just new to this, you may want to skip that at this point. So we can do that. We can do that filing a little bit after it's down, and you're going to just barely start to be able to see that product adhere to that nail. Okay. You guys, it looks like I think we paused here for a second. I hope we are back on track. I think we had a little bit of a glitchy system here today. But we're gonna hope everything, yep, lost the connection, you guys. I think we're back here. Thanks for sticking with us. I don't know what's going on with the internet today, but we're here. But thanks for staying. All right, so I don't think you missed anything. I just touched the back edge of my tip down to that natural nail. And now we're gonna just slowly apply some pressure and you're gonna start to see that gel really adhere to that natural nail. So a little bit of pressure, a little bit of pressure, a little bit of pressure. And it's almost down to the edge here. Now I'm actually going to slide that tip back just a little closer to my cuticle. And I think we are almost adhered. Okay, so that's exactly where I want it. I'm just going to hold that nail just gently, make sure that it's nice and straight, and then I'm going to turn on that touch cure light, and we're going to freeze this nail into place. So again, like I was saying earlier, we're just going to use this touch cure light to freeze that gel into place. It's not going to fully cure, but it's enough to where I can let go and it's not going to move. It's adhered enough, that gel is set enough. Yep, I know somebody says there's a slight air bubble. There is just a tiny little air pocket right there. I'm not going to worry too much about that. That's not going to affect my adhesion at all. And we're going to be doing a design over this nail, so we're not even going to worry about that. But I just froze that into place just really quickly for a few seconds. And now we're going to get that into our full UV LED light, and that's going to cure for a full 60 seconds. Okay. While that's curing, I'm going to close up my tip and jewel adhesive. I always want to make sure that I keep things closed up and cleaned up. And then I am going to clean off my spatula here, get that little bit of extra gel off of there. And then when that comes out of the light, we are going to do a little bit of filing. Let me find my file here. So we're going to be doing a little bit of filing to kind of smooth out the edges a little bit. I'm using a 150 grit file. You guys, this is a file that I've used on my trainer hand for a little while. But if you are taking a brand new file, always make sure with a brand new file, always make sure with a brand new file that you use another file to prep those edges. The edges of the file can be a little bit sharp. And you guys, it looks like we glitched out for just another second there, but we're back again. But I do use a prep file, and this file is my prep file. You see I have it labeled as prep. This is the only thing that I use this file for. I don't use this one on actual clients or my trainer hand, because this, when you use it for prepping, it's going to dull the surface of the file. So you always just use a separate file that you have just for prepping, just enough to remove those sharp edges so that they're nice and smooth now. And I go right over the top of it and then just slightly angle that on both sides. And then I always check that with my own hands just to make sure that it's not still sharp and I'm not going to cut my client. Okay. All right. So our nail is fully cured out at this point. It's not going anywhere. It is cured on there. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take that file that we prepped. This is a 150. And 150 is usually what I use. 150 is really my preference for most artificial applications. I think a 150 is strong enough. It's got enough grit to do the filing and shaping that you need, but it's not overly coarse where it's going to feel too rough on the nail or anything like that. So all I'm doing is just checking my edges here, making sure that there's nothing hanging off the sides, and making sure that the point of my nail doesn't have that little tab of plastic that can sometimes be on tips. So we've got our edges shaped up. Now at this point, this is where we're going to go back through and we're going to really make sure that this edge is beveled down. And you guys, this is the reason why I pre-beveled this. So those of you that are, that you've been around here for a while, sometimes you see me do this, sometimes you don't. But if you do pre-bevel it, it's going to make it a little bit easier to kind of clean that up. So at this point, I'm going to go back to my e-file, back to that same sanding band that we used to prep those natural nails, and I'm just going to work right around that back area. Now notice I'm only filing where the tip is. I'm not filing in that little area of natural nail. I want to make sure I'm only filing on that plastic tip, so that it's going to thin that plastic out and it's going to bevel it right down to that natural nail. So just working in, just like we did when we were prepping, those short little motions all the way up around the edge. And then once we have that beveled down, so I don't have any ledge there, I don't have any issue or anything that I'm going to catch, then I'm going to go through and I'm going to remove the shine from the whole rest of this tip. Oops, sorry guys. I want to make sure when I work with a gel polish or a gel paint over the top of my full cover tips, I always want to make sure to go through and remove the shine. Just like we were talking about with the gel wanting to adhere or not wanting to adhere to a shiny surface in the well, same thing. If you apply a gel polish over that shiny surface, it's going to have a tendency to chip off or peel off. And with that note, make sure that you're coming right down those edges. Do you see how right in through here there's a little bit of a shiny spot still? I don't know if you can see that on camera, but you want to make sure, especially down along those edges, that you really remove that shine, because that's where a gel polish tends to start chipping away from, okay? So always make sure you go through, really make sure to get that nail cleaned off and all of that shine removed so that we don't have any issues with our gel chipping or peeling away. Now, at this point, I'm just dusting off the nail, but I do want to cleanse this a little bit so that we can make sure that there's no last little bits of dust on here. Oops. Now, before when we cleansed the natural nail, we used Swipe. Swipe has a little bit of acetone to it. It has a little alcohol to it. If we use this on our plastic tip, that acetone can actually smooth out that surface again that we spent time and effort creating texture on. So we don't want to smooth that out. So now we're going to use ManiQ Cleanser. And this is going to cleanse off that nail. It's going to help to get rid of any of the dust that's on there and just give us a nice clean surface without having any acetone to it. Okay, so just dusting that off. If you need to clean out underneath the nail, you can clean out underneath the nail. And then we are going to be good to go. All right, who is ready for a design today? You guys, I know you've been seeing these other ones, and this is not what we're going to do on our accent nail here. We're going to be doing a fun 4th of July design. So put some red, white, and blue hearts in the chat. I think we have red, white, and blue hearts that we can put in there. So if you're ready for a fun design, put some of those in the chat. Let me know that you are ready. And also make sure you hit that subscribe button so that you can continue to get free education from us here. So one more time, I'm going to apply a coat of our protein bond, and this is also going to help our product adhere to that tip. So when we're working with the gel polish, we want that texture, but we also want that tacky surface. So we're going to do that one coat of protein bond. Now for a base color on our design, we're going to work with Pink 106, and this is from our ManiQ collection. So ManiQ is our gel polish collection. It's a 3-step gel polish collection, and what I mean by that is it has a base coat, color, and top coat. So whether you're working on a natural nail or you're working over a tip or an enhancement, you can use this 3-step. Now, I did say it's a 3-step, but I'm going right into our gel polish. So our gel color. On an enhancement, whether it's acrylic, hard gel, or even a full cover tip, you don't have to worry about doing a base coat. You can go right into your color, okay? So I'm going to get this into our light, and we're just going to freeze this into place for about 30 seconds. We're going to do 2 coats of our color, and then we'll get into our design. And let me show you what we're going to be using for our design. So we've got 3 different colors of our Mission Control gel paint. We have red, which is Power Up. So this, we're going to, like I said, you guys, we're doing a red, white, and a blue. So we got red. Our white is called Fizz. And then our blue is called Orbit. So those are the 3 colors that we're going to be working with here. And I just had our nail in the light for about 30 seconds to freeze that into place. Now, a full cure is going to be 60 seconds, but when we add our second coat of color, that first coat is going to continue to cure. So we're going to be doing a couple of different layers, couple of different cures on this nail. So everything is going to fully cure all the way through. So you can just go into that light for that quick 30 seconds, freeze your color into place, and then you can move on to your next coat. And it will fully cure by the end. Oh my goodness, Belinda, thank you so much. Thank you, thank you. Ah, you guys, you guys are so generous. I absolutely love our community here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for your contributions. I love seeing that. All right, so again, we're gonna cure that in the light for another 30 seconds. I'm gonna grab my gel paints here, and I'm also going to find my liner brush. Let me come back out here. Now, you guys, if you have our gel brush collection, this actually was a limited edition from a while back, but I absolutely love these brushes. So if you have them, you're gonna be using your larger or longer liner brush. I can't remember what the millimeters on this. I believe it might be a 10 millimeter. I know our micro detailer is 5 millimeters. So let me just compare. So yes, I think this one might be a 10 millimeter. So our micro detailer, you can use the micro detailer, but I think this one's a little bit too short for what we're gonna be doing today. So I like the longer, like I said, I think it's a 10 millimeter brush for this longer one. All right, so we're gonna take our nail here. It's cured for a little bit. It's cured for that 30 seconds, so it's not fully cured. It does have a tacky surface to it, and we are going to create our design on that tacky surface. Now, I am gonna use my little ceramic tile here. I'm gonna take a little bit of our polish remover, and I'm gonna just clean that off real quick. So I have a nice clean surface as almost a painting palette to keep my brush clean. And somebody's asking, how do you clean the brushes after? I will show you that when I'm done. So make sure to stick around, watch our design, and I'll show you how to clean out my brush when we're done here. So all I'm gonna do is come in nice and close. So I'm gonna take my brush and let's see, what color should we start with? Should we start with, maybe we'll start with the white. There we go, now you guys can see. Okay, so I'm gonna take my brush, I'm gonna just dab my brush into that gel paint and load up my brush. I like to just run that brush through the paint on my tile, and almost rotating the brush through my fingers like this is really gonna help to completely load up that brush. That way you're gonna have paint on that whole entire brush. Now the design we're gonna be doing is just a quick, easy, kind of a swirl to the nail. So I like to have that brush fully loaded all the way through it. I'm not just putting paint right on the tip. I want all of that brush fully loaded so that I can use that whole entire brush, okay? So I think I'm gonna start, let me get a little better view for you guys here. There we go. And okay, I think we're good there. So I'm just going to set my brush into wherever I want to start my design and lay that brush onto the nail and pull wherever you want that line to go. Okay, I'm going to take a little bit more of my paint. I think we're going to make this line just a little bit wider, but I actually like to, I always call it finishing the ends. So I tend to make the end a little bit wider. So the end of our line right here, I'll make that a little wider, pull that in, and then follow through. And notice that as I work, I'm actually turning the finger. I'm not necessarily pulling my brush as much. I'm turning the finger and allowing the brush to just stay where it's at, and then I'll pull the brush. So sometimes I use my hands to move and to pull that line. Sometimes I just move the finger and let that brush just stay where it's at. So let's go ahead and finish off our line here again. Make that a little bit wider at the base. And what I mean by finishing is, do you see how at this point now, it's a little bit wider here, it's a little bit wider here. To me, it looks more like a finished look rather than just a line. It adds a little bit more texture, it adds a little bit more almost flow to the design. So now you can kind of see it just finishes that look a little bit. I think I'm going to take a little bit more right up into the corner here. And you guys, I did have coffee today, and I knew I shouldn't because I knew I was going to be doing this design, and I knew I was probably going to get a little shaky. So if you start to see me get a little shaky, that's normal for me. I do tend to get a little shaky when I do lines and detail work like this, but don't worry if you do. Stop for a second, take a breath and just balance yourself. So I'm balancing my fingers here, and let that brush kind of do the work for you. Okay, I think I like that line how it is. Now, if you want to go on to your next line, you can definitely do that. If you feel confident in your brush skills and in your hand is not shaking, you can go right on to your next line. For me, I'm using our Touch Cure Light, and I'm going to set this line into place. So in case I decide that maybe my next line wasn't as perfect, I have this first line done. I like how it is. That second line, if it's not quite perfect, I can wipe it off without smudging up this first line. So using the Touch Cure Light in between to just set each of those lines is going to be a big help when you are doing designs like this. Now I'm going to just take out that extra paint out of my brush, and all I'm doing is I'm rolling the brush between my fingers here again, drawing that across my tile, and that's going to help to pull out some of that extra paint. Now, if you want to, you can also use a lint-free wipe. I just have it's our table towels that I've cut up, and I just use this to just gently pull the extra paint out of my brush as well. So that's usually what I do when I'm going in between colors. And then I'll show you at the very end how to really clean out your brush to make sure that there's no paint left in there, okay? All right, let's go ahead and let's grab a little bit of that red. Same thing, kind of dunk it into the jar, load up that brush, get a little bit more on there. Let's see, where do we want to take this one? And you guys, this is where it starts to just get fun. Now you can create whatever kind of lines and whatever spacing you like. So maybe let's just pull that right through there, load up my brush again, lay that onto the nail. And again, bring that end a little bit wider here at the edge, finish off that line. And just taking a little bit more of that paint right at that edge. All right, I think I like that. Let's finish up this edge. And maybe just a little bit wider right through here. And then I'm just going to come right up around that edge. Now you guys, be very careful when you're working around these edges like this that you're not getting that paint onto the skin, okay? If you do, grab your orange wood stick, clean that off before you do cure that so that you're not curing that paint on the skin. All right, I think I want to just pull this a little bit smoother. And somebody did make a comment in the chat there, if you are a little shaky, it just adds a little more texture, a little bit more design, and absolutely. That is a great way of thinking about it. So your lines don't have to be perfect, just have fun with the design. So let's do, I think we'll do one more right down here. So one more, just laying that brush onto the nail. And again, we'll widen out and finish off that end. But do you see how I'm just dragging my brush through that paint that I've got on my tile? That's how I reload my liner brush like this. When you're working with that longer brush, just pulling that through, reloading that. And again, we'll finish off that line. And you guys, sometimes I have a challenge actually talking and doing line work. So if I stop talking, that's why. It's not that I'm ignoring you or forgot what I was going to say. Well, there's a possibility that I forgot what I was going to say. But sometimes when I am doing line work, I actually have to just stop so that I do get those nice smooth lines. Okay, let's go ahead and freeze that one into place another time with our Touch Cure Light here. Set those in there. And somebody says, at the moment, it reminds me of candy cane or old toothpaste. It looks like a Christmas snail. Yeah, you guys, absolutely. These kind of lines, these kind of designs are a great option really for any holiday or any time of year. It just depends on what colors you're using. So when I realized that we have to do, well, we don't have to, but we should probably do a 4th of July nail, it was kind of a panic of, oh shoot, what are we going to do today? And then I said lines. We're going to just do lines. It's an easy, quick design that you can do, like I said, for any holiday, any time of year, anything. Just go ahead and create your lines. Have some fun. All right, let's add a little bit of blue in here. Where do we want to add blue? Maybe right in through here. And just laying my brush down onto the nail, sweeping that up around. This side I'm going to come back from I could actually just leave that there, just kind of trailing off. What do we think? Do we want to just trail? I don't know. I'm going to think about that for just a second. I may come back and add another end here. But for now, let's work right up through this top section, just kind of giving a little swirl right through there. And finish off that line with a little bit of a wider base. And I think I'm liking that. What do you guys think? Do we want to finish off that line, or should we just trail it off as it is? Let me know in the chat. Finish it or trail off. Let me know what you think. And I think somebody was asking, what gel am I using? You guys, everything that I'm using here today is Young Nails, and the gel paints that I'm using are the Young Nails Mission Control gel paints. Let it trail, leave it, finish, gives a character, finish it. All right, you guys, I think I'm seeing some more finishes, so we'll go ahead and finish that. And we'll just take a little bit. And I think it'll actually, I think with the one last thing that I'm going to add in here, I think if we finish that, I think it's going to give it the right look. I think if we let it trail off, I think it might not be quite the look that we're going for. And you'll see in just a little bit when I do finish up this design. We're going to add one more little hint of sparkle into this nail, because you guys know I love my glitter and I can't not have glitter. So when we add our glitter, I think you'll think we made the right decision of trailing or finishing that line off. Okay, I think I like where we're going here. One more time, I'm going to use that. Oops, I got a little paint on that finger. I'm going to use that Touch Cure light to set this into place. Make sure that I don't have any of my gel paints underneath that light either, because I don't want to cure anything in the jars. But all right, those of you that are, if anybody from Minnesota, does this look like a twins nail? Minnesota twins? All right, Minnesota twins or a 4th of July nail. That's what we're doing here. All right, so again, just setting that into place, just freezing those lines into place. And really for maybe 10 to 20 seconds or so with the light. That's all you really need to do. And then here is our sparkle. So I'm going to find we're going to go back to our gel polish, and this is Silver Spring, and this is the same color that I used on this nail down here. Now the red and the blue is not the same colors that I used on my gel paints, but I'm going to show you guys those in just a second here. So we're going to take a little bit of that Silver Spring, and I'm going to put that onto my tile. And this is kind of a silvery gold, just a really, really fun sparkle. And we're going to take that same brush. I'm going to clean out that extra paint out of there. We're going to pick up a little bit of that sparkle. And we're just going to fill in some space in between. So maybe right in through here. You can fill in all of the space in between. You can do more little lines like our red and blue lines. However you want to create your design, it's up to you guys. You're the creative. You have creative, what is that? Creative authority. You have creative authority to create whatever designs you want. You don't have to make them exactly like mine. So make them your own. But let's grab a little bit more of that. Let's pop that right in between here. And this one does have a little bit of a chunkier glitter in there. So you can kind of move those little pieces or those bigger pieces wherever you want. All right, I think I'm liking that. Let's go ahead and freeze this into place again. But I feel like I just need a little bit more blue right in the center. So let me set those into place. Let's grab our blue one more time. Maybe just a tiny little bit of a swirl right in through there. And tap out that little bit of extra right in through there. All right, I think I like how that's looking. I feel like it just needed that little blue accent right in between. And somebody else was asking how much pressure do you use when you clean out your brushes in between? And it's not a lot, not a lot at all. Okay, I think I like that. We're gonna freeze that into place. So while that's freezing, I'm just gonna show you here real quick. So all I do to clean out that paint in there is just fold that little lint-free wipe over. Actually, let me come back out a little bit. I'm not really even putting pressure. I'm just kind of touching the surfaces, just basically touching here. I'm not putting pressure, I'm not squeezing, just touching the surfaces and then pulling the brush through. That'll remove a good amount of that paint out of there. And let's see, do we need more sparkle? What do you guys think? More sparkle? I don't know. I'm kind of torn. But at this point, if I did feel like I needed to wipe anything off, don't use your fingers, you guys. But let's try it. Let's try it and see. And if we feel like it's too much, then we can wipe some of this off. But that's why I do freeze the design into place after each kind of layer in there. And then we'll just decide. So maybe just a little bit more. Oh, I think just a little bit more right in between here. Just a little bit. All right, I think I'm liking this. So just a little bit right in between there. It added just that tiny little bit more. I think we're good. All right, so one more time. Now, actually, this time, I'm going to put this back into our full light, and that's going to cure our design into place, again, maybe for another 30 seconds, and then we will go ahead and top coat. So if you guys haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button, join our community, and then after you hit subscribe, let's go ahead and start our top coat chant in the chat. So if you're new to our channel, the top coat chant is just typing in top coat, top coat, top coat into the chat. And that's just our fun way of finishing up the nail. So while you guys are doing that, I am going to show you how I do actually clean out my brush. So all I did, as I've been going through, I used that lint-free wipe, just fold that over, pull my brush through. That can help to pull out some of that extra gel that's in there or that extra paint that's in there. Otherwise, once you have that done, let me see if I can find my base gel here. I usually like to use my ManiQ Base or really any clear gel that you have. A lot of times I use if I work with any hard gels, I like to use my Synergy Base Gel. But really any clear gel is going to work. So I've got my ManiQ Base. All I'm going to do is I'm going to take my brush, and I'm going to show you this from the side. So from this angle, I'm not putting my brush straight up and down and putting pressure in it like this. Too much pressure at the base of your brush can actually break off the bristles. So you want to make sure when you're working, you're pulling your brush so that it's just maybe giving that brush a bend. It's not really crimping right there at the end of the bristles, okay? So all I'm going to do is just pull my brush through that, and that's going to kind of release any of the gel or any of the paint that's in there. Now let me show you here. So if I did have, let's take a little bit of that red. So if I had that paint in my brush, I could go through and I could just wipe out as much of that as I can to clean that out, or you can use the towel, that lint-free wipe to clean it out. But otherwise, just pulling that brush through that clear gel, that is going to help to release a lot of that gel or that color gel, and you'll be able to see all of that coming out. Now, you may have to do this a couple of times. You can kind of see I'm just wiping out some of that extra. You may have to do this a couple of times to really completely clean out your brushes. So give yourself a few minutes to do this. It may not be a quick, 30-second process. It may be a couple of minutes that you do have to take to clean out your brush. But now you can see all of that red is now out of my brush. So now I know that my brush is nice and clean. And usually I'll just wipe out that extra. And same thing, I'm going to keep my brush more flat on the tile. I'm not angling it up, but just flat on there, and then I'm rolling the brush between my fingers. So that's going to roll those bristles back to a nice tight point, and my brush is going to be ready for me to go for the next time. Now, sometimes I will, if I feel like maybe I have a little too much of that gel in there, I will go through and I'll use that lint-free wipe to clean out some of that extra, but I still always go through and roll that brush to a point. And I don't know if you can even see that little shadow. There is still just a tiny little bit of gel left in the bristles, and that is going to help to keep your bristles from drying out or getting damaged in between your applications. Okay, so we still need to do our top coat, don't we? Oh my gosh, you guys, hold on a second. So at this point, you can do whatever top coat you want to do. I'm going to work with my Ultimate Finish. If you guys have been here for a while, you know that I love my Ultimate Finish, especially when I'm doing designs that are painted over the surface of the nail, because sometimes those painted designs add a little bit of texture. And the Ultimate Finish is a slightly thicker top coat, so using the Ultimate Finish over my hand-painted designs like this can actually fill in, and it will give you a much smoother finish because it just has that little bit of thickness to it. So this is going to go back into the light. That does need to cure for a full 60 seconds, but after, I'm going to give it just maybe 30 seconds or so, and then I will show you the finished look. And one other thing, you guys, if you haven't seen it already, we have our new Cuticle Oil pens. I'm not going to put this on our trainer hand because the trainer hand isn't going to absorb this amazing cuticle oil, but I am going to put it on myself, and that way you guys can see whenever you finish your services, whether it's acrylic, whether it's full sets of full cover tips, whatever you're doing, always make sure that you add that last little bit of cuticle oil to really rehydrate those cuticles, keep those natural nails flexible underneath. And you guys, this little cuticle oil pen is great for just tossing in your purse when you're on the go, or keep it by your bedside table. Or you guys, if you're like me, I always have one at my nail station. I always have one at my desk where I'm working on my laptop. And after just a few seconds, that oil really absorbs in and it doesn't feel greasy. So even when I do have this sitting at my desk and I put that on, I go to type on my computer and it's not going to be greasy. So make sure you always finish your services with the cuticle oil. And there is our fun look for the 4th of July. So you guys, hopefully you enjoyed our lesson today. Hopefully you will try out the cute little stripes on your nails. Have a wonderful 4th of July. We should be back, I believe, on Wednesday and Thursday, but make sure to set your notifications, make sure to subscribe and set your notifications so that you can always know when we are going live. And hopefully you guys had fun today, and we'll see you guys back next time. Thanks, everybody. And make sure to subscribe.